So did you know that you always wanted to be a music teacher then?
I knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
It started off by being because I could boss about lots of people all at the same time. And then it turned into actually I can do a lot of good for people if I do.
Yeah.
But it started off with being bossy. And then I did. I knew I wanted to teach, but only realised that I'd be good enough to teach music later on because other people were all sort of grade 8 piano and all that, which
Okay.
I'd never quite managed.
Yeah.
And but you don't have to do that in order to teach it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So can you tell us a bit more about how your love of music came about?
Well, I couldn't have avoided it really because my parents, before they met each other, said individually to themselves, whoever my husband or wife is going to be, they must love music. Love music. Not necessarily be good at it,
Yeah.
but they must love it. So when they got together, of course, they knew that they both loved music. And so they had 5 children who also loved music. And my father was quite an eccentric and in lots of ways. And he used to wander around the house listening to us playing the piano and pointing out little chords that we used.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you know about the Neapolitan sixth, but of course you do. But he would say, when it was one of his favourite chords, and mine, when it's used by Bach,
spicy.
it's superb when it's used.
Yeah.
Anyway, if any of us used a Neapolitan, or if there was one on the radio or on a record, he would yell out, Neapolitan! And I now teach harmony at Cambridge.
Yeah.
And I love the thought, that connection with my father. And my mother did her grade 8 piano when she was in her 50s.
Wow.
You know, she said, I'm going to get grade 8.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow. So it started off with just kind of harmonising at the piano then, just improvising then?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And if I had a rule for myself, I don't know how I did this, but I had a rule for myself that if I worked out a really good chord progression at the piano, I had to play it in all 12 keys before I allowed myself to invent another one.
Wow.
And what better preparation could there be for harmony
I was
and
gonna
music?
say,
So I can play anything in any key as a result, because I taught
amazing.
myself
Yeah.
instinctively when I
Yeah.
was in my teens. You know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Is that something that's come very natural to you then, improvising at the piano? Or is it a skill that, you know, you've had to learn over time?
Well, creativity, we try and teach creativity. In my view, certainly for music, it's a lot more subtle than that. We teach the nuts and bolts of music, key signatures, chords, how to write things down, what other composers do, and all that. And we set all of that up. And the spark of creativity then comes from the individual, if he has it. Now, I actually did have it. And so I used to spend half an hour a day playing, just making things up. And there was a beautiful Steinway at school, my state school in Kingston. And I used to get in early so that I could just go and play it. And I simply used to get in early, go into the school hall, nobody else there, and just play and make things up at the Steinway because it made such a nice sound.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember the headmaster coming and listening, entranced one day, and telling me how much he enjoyed it. And off he went.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you were educated at a state school.
Yeah.
Did you have a very musical education there?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We had the best possible music staff. Wonderful man, still alive, called David Neild,
Oh, okay.
who was in charge of music, and Bruce Pullen, who was superb with the choir, had just come down from King's Cambridge, where he'd been singing under David Wilcox. And they were both very, very enthusiastic. David Neild they were both kind of eccentrically enthusiastic. Before them, there was a fellow called John Walker, who was amazing and very funny, made us laugh a lot, as well as putting on, with a state school, putting on the Dream of Gerontius in St Paul's Cathedral with full orchestra,
Yeah.
which he managed to raise the money for, and soloists of the day. I've still got the poster for it when I was 13,
Amazing.
1963.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember, go in the name of angels. At that moment I thought, oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah. And was that the spark for you to kind of realise?
It was one of the
Yeah.
sparks. I mean, my father was really intensely musical, and my mother, and school. I just was so fortunate. It was between two schools when I passed 11 plus.
Yeah.
It was between, I don't often do well in exams, but I did in that one.
Yeah.
It was between schools, two schools, and we simply chose Tiffin in Kingston because it was the more musical. And I'm
Yeah.
so pleased I did.
Yeah.
I still go there and teach sometimes and help out. It's an amazing place.
Fantastic.
Very, very well run.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
By a wonderful headmaster, Brigadier J.J. Harper.
Yeah. And aren't they particularly specialised in choral activities?
They do,
Yeah.
but they have an orchestra too.
Yeah.
And they provide choirs for Royal Opera and all sorts
okay.
of things as well,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. So, boys at that state school, can go to the festival hall and sing in Mahler too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, which I think is so important, and particularly with the work that you do, because I think that there has been this perception that, classical music education is for the rich and for the elite people who went to private schools, certain universities.
That's how it's becoming at
Yeah.
the moment, because it's cut by ignorant people who say that they must concentrate on the core subjects. That's not how learning works. You don't, if the core subjects, if you feel that the core subjects are neglected and not doing as well enough, you don't find ways of making more time for them. It just doesn't work. If a child is highly enthusiastic musically, get him or her to do plenty of music, and you'll find the other things come along in its wake, and it pulls other things along with them, because they are a lively, spirited individual who loves music.
Yeah.
And we really need to get this across, because at the moment, quite a lot of people think that in order to do better at the core subjects, you should give up other things, and that's complete rubbish. And so music is one of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things that certain people love and will thrive doing, and some people just don't know that. And that's why I've started this thing with a local vicar called Pimlico Musical Foundation.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is, I've just been into one of the schools this morning,
Oh, yes,
getting them to sing.
Yeah.
They were loving it, and we've got a concert next Wednesday.
Amazing.
They all love it, and they wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Well, we'll just hold that thought there. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Where did you train after Tiffin?
I went to Durham to do maths and physics.
Durham, go Durham.
Yeah, which college were you?
John's.
Oh, were you?
Music.
Van Mildert.
Yeah.
And I went to do maths and physics. My father was a mathematician
okay.
and engineer, and I then thought, hang on, I'd like to do subsidiary music, and they told me I couldn't because it didn't fit. And I put my foot down as a 19-year-old and made it fit, and made them show me that it did. So I did subsidiary music and was invited to change course in my second lesson, but I delayed then. I thought it was sensible to delay till the second year, when I went back to the beginning and did music, and I'm pleased I did take an extra year.
Yeah.
And so then I studied music. Then I went off, did a PGCE, and taught in schools.
Amazing. What was your experience of Durham like?
Wonderful.
Apart from
Love
the cold
it.
weather.
And in my second year, somebody said we were having a drink in the pub, and I said, "How do you manage to afford all this?" He said, "Oh, I've got a choral scholarship."
Yeah.
And so I said, "Oh, well, I'll do that as well." And so I sang in the cathedral for 2 years.
Amazing.
And it wasn't just so that I could afford beer, but that's how the subject came up.
Wow.
And then I went and did my PGCE in King's, Cambridge after that,
Yeah.
and sang in King's Choir under Wilcox. So that was an amazing opportunity, and
Yeah.
I learnt so much from him.